In terms of sound, you already said that you wanted to strip things back a little and focus on that live sound. But what was the reasoning behind it? Going back to the fundamentals of the band?
I don't think that was the reason. I think that what we were doing was that the more time we spent in the studio, the first lot of things that we'd recorded all kind of used a lot of the same tricks that we'd used on, but weren't tricks. But now that we were using them again, started feeling like tricks, and that devalued what we thought we were trying to do. And then as a result, we started thinking, well, this is about like the potential of what we can do with all of this. Recording equipment is so big that it's sort of too big, so we need to limit that. So it means making more choices. I mean, even that we've let ourselves down on in some regards, because we didn't make a lot of choices, or not quickly. It took forever to really figure out. But it just meant not layering loads of vocals and not having big reverbs on all the vocals, and not having lots of guitars all doing the same thing to create that sound. If it took more than one or two guitars, then maybe it should be something else doing it. And it was just finding those limitations.
It's also
and using them as positives. So.
Yeah, no, it's also that Given So Well was frustrating record to tour because we couldn't recreate quite a lot of it. So it just felt like it'd be nice to have a record that was tangible and playable as we were. It felt like an honest thing to do, yeah.
In that sense then, because this is your fourth record, has it become easier to make a record along those ones? In a way that because you have that experience, or is it then more difficult because you want to do something different each time?
I felt like it was going to be, we all felt it was going to be easy to make this record, and it was probably the hardest one. I wouldn't say it's getting easier to make records.
No. I don't know why. I mean, the problem a lot of the time is that you sort of assume that you're developing. If you get a virus or something, your body, with the help of medicine or whatever, will create will sort of bolster your immune system so that you don't catch that again. But with really clever viruses, they figure out how to supersede that. And I think that's what's happened. That's in a way what happens is that you think you've figured it out, but actually you haven't figured it out at all. So you have to figure out a whole new bunch of aspirins or whatever it is. You know, the tools to try and help deflect the difficulties, or the things that eat away at the kind of positive aspects of trying to make and create and do all of that kind of thing. Because there isn't a formula. That's basically what I'm trying to say. There isn't an obvious formula that we've found that means that we can knock out a record that we're proud of without going through the ringer. You could probably cut that whole analogy.
I like the virus. Keep the virus stuff.
I get it.
Yeah, that's really good.
Okay, all right. Well, I do get it. Well, the album is called Marks to Prove It. Did that have anything to do with this process?
The Marks to Prove It was a song title, and then the more that we lived with that, and we started thinking that it fitted the record, and the idea of a lot of the things that we're sort of maybe trying to suggest with the record is this thing of, and with the album cover and all that, is that there are things that you overlook, and that it's very nice when you're presented with something that makes you reevaluate or reappraise or take stock of again. And Marks to Prove It, that idea of everything needing proof it just all seemed to fit, and it sounds like a good album title, and but it's not that song is representative of the record, and that song in a weird way is almost like the preface to the record, and it's the outro of that song that is the beginning lead into the second song, which is, I think, sort of is the start of the record and the start of the kind of arc of a kind of story, very loose arc of a kind of nighttime, like the descending into the kind of chaos of night and coming out the other end into the kind of optimism of another day.
And was this what we talked about earlier, the environment, was this the basis of the lyrical content that
Yeah, that's from, I remember the start of those lyrics came from walking through Kennington Park, which is just between me and the studio, and seeing, and it being one of those rare sort of London days where the sun's so good that everyone's out and everyone's sort of men you don't want to see in Speedos or in Speedos, and the ice cream men are out in full force, and it's just it's a rare occasion, and that was kind of and how exposing that is, you know, for people really, and how revealing it can be, and that was, I remember thinking like that there's a similarity between the way that people approach that like how they choose to show themselves when they're not really used to having to show themselves in those situations.
And Felix, when Orlando comes to you or comes to the band with these type of lyrics, do you know what they're about? Do you discuss them?
No, we don't often discuss them, and I don't feel the need to ever, because I think, you know, with the lyrics, that's Lan's thing, and I think that's something that shouldn't be run through, that can't be run through a board or anything. That's someone saying something, so I don't even think about it too much. Normally for me it's just what sounds good phonetically and works with music. It takes me ages to even listen to the meaning between of the words really. So even like Hugo's song Silence, I try not to think about too heavily what that means. Think about it more musically, personally, yeah.
And for the both of you, what was the feeling then? Was there a moment when you kind of felt, okay, now the album is done? Because it was such a long process?
I still feel like that it's not really done, because the album being finished is one thing, but it's, you know, we're doing these interviews, and as we talk about it between ourselves or with you, I'm sort of rethinking aspects, or I'm learning new parts of the record in a way, and we're going to be touring it. The artwork, I've just been this afternoon having discussions with my friend Matt de Jong, who's the designer, about where that image came from, and we need to find the high-res thing of that. We've got to do the backdrop for America, the t-shirts have to be finalised for that. We've got to do a new edit for the video for the second single, because Sam thinks that the beginning can be better. We've got to go back this evening, but we start touring America on, you know what I mean? So it doesn't stop. But I think relief settles in, and I feel like these are enjoyable problems, and the kind of anxieties and stresses have waned, for me anyway. I mean, we still have moments where we're kind of, everyone cares very much about all the aspects of it, and that's very important, and you forget, you can sort of, in a way, I think for me anyway, to really start thinking this is over in terms of we're finished, it would be the wrong way of going about it, because it's not over, and I still, as does Fee, as does everyone, cares very passionately that all of the loose ends get tied up as correctly and completely as possible.
And finally then, Felix, you mentioned that on the last record you felt that it was a bit difficult to translate into a live setting, so now with this album, have you already played a couple of shows and tried them out?
Yeah, we're already playing 5 songs, new songs in the set, and they work really, I think they sound really tough comparatively to the songs that we used to, songs off of previous records. I think it's all going to work really well. I'm looking forward to the record being out so we can play some of the less direct ones as well, because there's something nice about this record, perhaps unintentionally, that gives a good frame of context to all the music we've made beforehand. And we haven't made, I think it's been difficult to say what the Maccabees sound like up till now, and this kind of has a bit of a summary about it as well, which is happy accident really, and so yeah, playing it live is going to be great.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.